Welcome to Pitch It To Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be your three hosts doing an ego trip about their time as micro-celebrities in the world of flesh and blood podcasting. You can find us across all socials such as Blue Sky and Instagram at Pitch It To Me podcast.
I'm Joel.
I'm Fuzzy.
I'm Clark.
And I'm Talon.
Yo! You're supposed to be in Europe.
Well, tell that to the visa office over there. No, yeah, it was we basically you only have so much time to stay on a tourist visa, and it takes a lot of time to get a visa approved. So while we're waiting for that to get approved, we decided to pop back over to the States, which just so happens to coincide with RTN season.
Hey, yo.
Well, we're really, really happy to have you, Talon. We've missed you terribly, and it's great to have you here for our 100th episode.
I know. Dang. The timing keeps timing.
Really worked out. Yeah, our hiatus is over. We're back, baby.
We're back. We're sexier. We're better at podcasting than the year before.
It's really nice to be able to have that little bit of downtime, especially during the month of December when there's so much else going on.
Oh, there's so much.
So we appreciate your patience as listeners. We know you're chomping at the bit to get more PITM pod, but it really is nice for us to be able to lay low for a little bit. That way we can be really dedicated during the rest of the year.
Yeah, and speaking of the new year, we are opening the new year not only with our 100th episode, but with a collaboration with Opus Arts. Joel, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically a local friend of mine and also a business owner, Gage, he runs Opus Arts, and we're talking about Rhinar and tokens and Flesh and Blood right as the Rhinar Armory deck got spoiled, and we're just gelling about the different stuff you could come up with, and so it just really easily melded into this partnership, and he made it really easy to work with him on the design process as well as the logistics of everything. So we're very excited to be working with them. I've really enjoyed hearing about his process, especially with how he works with his artists and how he sources projects for different ones. Like, I think he is really onto something in terms of working with artists and sort of like changing how the industry works in that regard. So we're really excited for the token launch. If you haven't seen it yet, I did post an announcement on our socials as well as our Discord and Patreon. We'll be selling them. You can reach out to me directly or just anywhere the podcast has socials, and we'll get back to you. But yeah, really excited to launch this.
What's on the token? What does it look like?
It's basically Rhinar with his sweet elephant head, or is it an elephant? Yeah, it looks like an elephant. Pauldron, and he's ripping somebody in half, and eyeballs are flowing, and blood is oozing from this corpse, and it has this might is written at the bottom to indicate that it's a might token, but also it's got blood on there. It's got bones and sinews, just very exactly what you'd find in the Savage Lands. Very cool looking art. The blood is this really deep crimson, and the background is this flames, just screams gore, and it's very reminiscent of actually sorcery. If you ever experienced that game at all, but yeah, really cool art, and you really have to see it in the flesh and blood.
And it's got some sick foiling on it too.
Obviously, over the hiatus, we miss talking about a few things. So we had a really, really big B&R in December. This B&R, I think, we normally like to do big B&R episodes, especially when there is a big B&R. We like doing a whole episode on it. I wrote my thoughts into an article for the Patreon. And I don't think we want to spend too much more time. This is a long turn zero talking about it, but
we got a lot to catch up on.
I don't know. Do you guys want to offer very brief thoughts about the B&R?
We're so fucking back! Let's go! Fuck you, Earth! Fuck you, Syndra! Fuck you, Assassin! No, I'm just kidding.
I really like their philosophy that they've been developing, where bans and restricted announcements can be a way for us to refresh the meta, even if it's not bad. I think from their perspective, they were very happy with the meta, but they recognize that it's just good to ban some stuff for fun.
Yeah, this feels like the first B&R in a while where they're really taking that new approach where we're going to be changing the meta when it feels too stale, especially coming off of, I think, the Worlds season, which didn't have any bans leading up to that tournament. So this feels really refreshing, really encouraging, and I think they pretty pretty much nailed the head on each ban.
And don't forget that this is a result of 2 booster products that really failed to make a splash, right? I think that is the context for these changes and why they're willing to do changes as a sort of rotational tool.
Yeah, Mastery Pack Guardian, Super Slam, neither of which were like able to bring Guardian to the meta. That was the promised child.
And Brute stepped up for sure, but Brute has not like been the meta defining force in the way that we saw Gravy Bones become a meta defining force when he hit the table.
Yep.
So it's the fact that the end of the year didn't have this. Syndra and Verdance have been around since I literally looked it up. The first event was the Calling Memphis that was won by Syndra, and then Worlds was won by Syndra. She literally bookended the 2 major tournaments of the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like it was needed, it's appreciated. Let's see if it actually makes a difference in RTN season. Okay. And final thing, our next episode is going to be pitch and predictions. So all you in the comments need to tell us what are your predictions for what they're going to print in Compendium of Wraith. Are we getting that Adult Blaze? What are they going to print for Zen? Right? Because they're going to print a Zen card, right?
Zen, eh?
I don't know. I feel like that's what Compendium is about. It's like, yeah, here's 1 card for Zen. And everyone's like, why? Zen's like banned in every single format. And it's like, not Silver Age.
Unless they start releasing rare heroes the way that they've been doing with Majestic and Legendaries.
Oh, there's just all sorts of predictions that I think we could talk about. So like, I know you play a hero that I have never thought about once in my entire life. Tell me what card they're going to get in Silver Age.
Max Enjoyers, get out there, man. We want to hear from you.
Well, to be fair, we've seen Speed Demon. But.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Riptide Enjoyers, we want to hear from you, man.
Yeah, so about that.
No. Hold on.
The Third Zero's like already 7 minutes.
It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, we want to hear your predictions for Compendium of Wraith. Leave them in the comments for this video, and we might read them out loud in our pitch and predictions episode.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, we always like to do a little game where we sort of compete with the audience.
And
who can predict the most right.
Come to our Discord where we'll have a dedicated thread, and you can see predictions from other people too.
There's a lot of good conversation in the Discord come pitch and predictions time.
Absolutely.
All right, now can we finally talk about the episode?
I guess.
It's our 100th episode of Pitch It To Me podcast. 100 episodes of this show. Do you guys think we would have got this far?
No.
I knew we were going to get this far.
What about you, Talon, our executive producer?
Oh, of course I knew.
That's such a fucking lie.
You guys were like, oh, we're going to do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, man, I had a lot of faith in you guys. Like, I remember so much of the early conversation was like, there was like nervousness about like, oh, like, you know, like how many is this possible? What? But then you guys just had such a clear like vision and passion for the show. And as soon as you guys started like actually producing episodes and getting that workflow down, it became really clear like, oh no, these guys are willing to put in the work. And yeah, so I'm not at all surprised that 100 episodes, here we are.
Yeah, I feel like we all had something that we really enjoyed about podcasts and something that we noticed was missing in the fab content sphere that we were like, we need to, not need, but like we all felt, I feel like, very passionately about providing that for the community. And I feel like the how it's resonated with people is proof of that. So we really appreciate all of your guys' feedback and your support over the couple of years now.
And to celebrate this achievement of 100 episodes, we're going to spend the entire podcast talking about us, baby. Pitch It To Me podcast. This is going to be the past, present, and potential future of Pitch It To Me podcast.
That is indeed the title of the episode.
He said the name.
Roll credits. So let's go ahead and get started with Red Pitch, where we're going to be talking about the past, those early days of the podcast. So I want to start with the story of the beginning of the podcast, which starts actually not 20 feet from where we are currently seated.
Yo.
Inside of Fuzzy's home. Where we did a draft. Do you remember what we drafted, Fuzzy?
It was probably Outsiders.
Wow.
It was Outsiders.
That is crazy that this started with an Outsiders draft.
I'm surprised I was in a good mood after that.
Yeah, if I could add just a little more context, like Clark and Talon and I met at summer camp years ago. And we would play Magic the Gathering drafts like every month for a while.
And they never let me forget it.
And as we were learning Flesh and Blood and playing more of that, we switched to doing Flesh and Blood drafts. And Joel is someone we met from the community.
Yes. So we invited some of our locals over from Finch and Sparrow back when we were doing Blitz-only armories.
You remember that format?
I do remember that format. I remember that. I remember enjoying those days.
Bro, that was peak Flesh and Blood for a while there.
For a while there, that was peak Flesh and Blood. I could spend $12 on equipment and have a fighting chance.
Absolutely.
Goliath Gauntlet, 2 for 8 dominate. I win the game.
Bro, Mark of Lightning was like the bane of my existence during those days.
Yeah. But after the draft, we sort of just got around to sitting and talking about Flesh and Blood and Flesh and Blood design. Fuzzy and I were still very new to the game. And so what a lot of the conversation was us sort of talking about what this game could be in the future.
Mm-hmm. And
Joel, you were sort of pushing us with little questions like, what classes do you think they'd add? What do you think those classes would look like?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this hero needs? What do you think that hero needs? What sort of draft shapes do you want to see? And we were having so much good conversation that Clark did his once patented bit about podcasts. And I know people who have talked to me about this before know this, but I used to do this all the fucking time. Where I would stop the conversation. I'd go, guys. And I'd get everyone's attention in the room. And I'd go, this could be a podcast.
And I will say it really landed with me because that's one of my favorite bits about groups of straight males getting together. Is like, guys, should we start a podcast?
Yeah, like the College Humor sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The what?
There's like a College Humor sketch about it.
That's probably what it was. Absolutely.
Well, there's 1,000,001 sketches about that. I took the joke from a sketch comedy group called Chris and Jack. And so, like, I do the bit, and everyone knows it's a bit. Fuzzy knows it's a bit. Talon knows it's a bit. Joel didn't know it was a bit. Joel hadn't known me long enough.
So what you're saying is that Pitch It To Me has all been one long bit?
Yes. I also have not told the joke since we released the first episode of the podcast.
Clark's like, I gotta be careful. If he's starting too many podcasts.
I didn't know Clark's humor, but Clark didn't know my ability to call people's bluffs. So I was like, we're starting a fucking podcast.
Yeah, and then we brought you on, Talon, as someone to help guide us, because I don't know how much we've really talked about on the pod, but as our executive producer, what that means for us is you have a lot of experience like running podcasts professionally and working with a lot of other podcasts. You know what people are doing in the industry. So figuring out like how we can get set up, what things should we look out for, like market wise, how can we brand ourselves? Like these are things that you have a lot of professional experience in. So you're able to kind of like guide us through and take us under your wing.
Yeah. And like, I love doing that. Like, I really love podcasting as a medium. This is like an open invite to like anyone listening out there. If you're like, oh, I have an idea for a podcast, Flesh and Blood, not Flesh and Blood, whatever, join the Discord. I'm in there, ping me, send me a message, whatever. I just like talking about the forum. And I think you guys especially were so like receptive to stuff, but also had such a clear vision for what you wanted as well. And I think that is part of what has made this show sustainable and so like engaging to listen to is like there is so much care that you guys have put into it continuously. Like you guys have only been leveling up as we've gone on, which I know we'll kind of get into later as well. But
yeah. Well, let's talk about that first ever meeting, because the way that it went was the three of us sat around, and Talon, you sort of drove the conversation a little bit, where you sort of prompted us with like, well, what's your conceptualization? What's the structure? And you were taking down all your notes on your little Remarkable tablet.
Not a Remarkable, a super note.
Oh,
the better version
note
of Remarkable, because they don't require you to pay a monthly subscription.
Free ad.
Yeah.
But it was great because doing the notes for this episode, I got to go back into our drive and find that original document and dig through Talon's handwritten notes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's like a lost relic.
And I think like, yeah, I mean, like for me, like anytime somebody wants to start a podcast, like there's so many different like versions of it. Cause there are people that like make podcasts to sell ads and to have Patreons and to make money. There are people who make podcasts because they just enjoy doing it. And so I remember like having conversations about like, what is the goal of this podcast? Is this an excuse for three friends to hang out every week? That's a great, that's sure. That's awesome. But you're going to approach that podcast a little differently than you're like, we want to build a community. We want to like be kind of a presence, which is more where you guys were at, which I really respected. And then, that drove to like, okay, well, if that's what you want, structure then has to be tight in every episode. Like you can't be rambling. I think there are some Flesh and Blood podcasts that really struggle with structure.
Well, let's talk about some of those initial things that we wrote down in that first episode.
Yeah, I remember a lot of us were like, do we even want to be another like competitive podcast out there? Like there's so many better, more established players than us that are doing that kind of stuff. And it's like, if we don't have the insight, then what do we like about the game? What do we want to talk about? And I think we all collectively joined in on like, there's nobody talking about the design of the game. What makes the game so unique to other TCGs? Why so many people are obsessed with this card game and the choices you make because of that design. And I think that was really the driving force for me. And I think, for all of us, really.
Yeah, that tied into that first conversation of sitting around after the draft table being like, well, what about this? Well, what about this?
Yeah.
What new design, what new card, what new thing? And that was a very driving thing. We wanted to capture the energy of that first conversation. And at the same time, I haven't won an RTN or a PQ. We haven't won callings
yet.
We haven't won PT. When Michael Hamilton was like doing the BNR podcast, there's the Runaways wasn't doing it back then, but now like there's Runaways. Like you can very easily get some of the official opinion of some of the best competitive players in the world right now.
Right.
So why would you listen to our opinion on how to win and be better at the game? Like it's just not what we were there for, but we are someone who think, like me and Fuzzy especially, our background is in board games. So like we're constantly talking about how to get like how the design of board games leads to different ideas.
Yeah. And I think, not to just repeat exactly what Clark said, but as we're not competitive players, we needed to find some way that people would want to listen to us. We can talk about design. And I think that's also where the highly like structured format came in, because I think I could listen to a competitive player talk like Michael Hamilton, Ukulele Bender, do whatever they want because I know that they have the information I need, and listening to the way that they think is going to be beneficial to me.
Yeah.
But for us in our show, we're kind of Joe Schmo nobodies. So we need to make the show a little bit more appealing in order to give people a reason to listen. So by structuring it and keeping this cute like red pitch, yellow pitch, blue pitch format, turn zero Arsenal zone, it was our way to give the show a little bit more production value to actually get people to want to listen and have fun with it. And I hope that you guys are enjoying that.
Plus, it was something to set us apart from the rest of the space, right? Like, I think we wanted to avoid overproducing the podcast to the point where it felt like we were being those people who are just starting a podcast to make money. We didn't want to quite come across that way. We wanted to keep this energy of we are friends getting in a garage together. But at the same time, we were watching a lot of podcast episodes. Like, I think literally at the meeting, we were pulling up different podcasts we know and seeing 2 hour long, hour and a half long, no chapter in the YouTube description of just, and it's like, what are they talking about at any given point in time?
Yeah.
It was so hard to follow.
And I've really been impressed with the perception or how people have been enjoying the show. Nearly everybody that has heard the show and, wanted to talk to me about it in person, one of the things they bring up almost always is the structure of the content, because no one's talking over each other. No one's like trying to like get a word in edgewise. And I think that's also due to like many of the podcasts being over Zoom. Us being in person also makes it easier. But I think the work that we put in to make sure all of the structure makes sense is relatable to people and allows us to like be really creative and confined. Pay dividends, really.
And it allows us to bring in more topics per episode. Like we try to keep our episodes really focused, but also split apart and really dive into a topic. And we have like 3 miniature topics plus our little Arsenal zone at the end where we have extra bits. So it allows us to really compact a lot of content into a more efficient space.
But a result of that is that we decided that we wanted to also edit the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We're not a one-shot podcast. And I will say, the rambling, let's jump into a Zoom call, press record, and then stop 2 hours later. They don't have to do nearly as much editing as we need to do.
I am sometimes jealous of those podcasts.
and
We'll cut out like entire segments, like entire points. I will cut a 3-minute conversation about something because it is just a little too tangential to the original topic.
Yeah.
And I think like something that it makes you like so proud of like what you guys have been doing and like why I genuinely love listening to this show is that I think that like podcasting in general needs to learn these lessons, you know, like if you look at like the top podcasts that are out there right now, it is these like long chat show kind of things that even with like celebrities and stuff that like just feels rambly. Like basically what has happened is that like TikTok and YouTube are how people find new media, right? Like Twitter is kind of, dead, whatever. And so video content is that. And this algorithm video content means that it's just like a mass game. You just need clips, you need clips, you need clips. And all of that takes work. And so people aren't editing as much because it's like, yeah, they just need to put out more content because that's what the machine demands. But you guys have seen that and like that doesn't actually lead to a better product, and then come up with a system that lets you still kind of put out these weekly episodes, hit that algorithm a little bit, but you're making the disciplined choices that lead to a much better final product. And that makes it, I think, really engaging to listen to. I also think that even though it's more work, that's part of what's made it kind of what has made it last as long is because you guys are proud of what you're doing. So the work is worth it rather than still needing to find the time and scheduling and that kind of thing to put out something that might feel kind of half-baked. But yeah, you guys have done great.
Period.
And I think having 3 of us really helps because we get to, shift the labor around sometimes. Like one of us gets a week off and then there's the process of audio editing and video editing, and we'll break that apart. And divvying up the workload, I think, has really helped. If it was just like 2 of us doing this amount of work, it'd probably be more difficult.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Especially since all of us, I feel like, have ebbs and flows in our competitive seasons. Like, it's been really hard to enjoy the game of Flesh and Blood, but also doing this content when we have so much more work than other podcasts might.
Yeah. Well, we did say it was going to be an ego trip, folks.
This is what you signed up for.
To move it in a little bit more of a fun direction, let's talk about some of the other potential names that we floated in that original meeting. Because Pitch It To Me Podcast was not the original name of the podcast. No, the original name of the podcast was Cardboard Eucharist.
I don't think that's quite true. That's revisionist history.
I think one podcast member certainly felt that way.
But Clark, can you maybe explain Cardboard Eucharist? What if
I still need this explained to me. And
It's crazy.
Clark has definitely explained this to me at least like 3, 4, 5 times because this is a Catholic joke, right?
It is such a good name. It is such a good fucking name. Okay. The Eucharist is what you call the point in the Catholic Mass when you receive the body and blood of Jesus Christ.
Right?
Where you eat the bread.
It's where you get the little wafer, and you get the wine that represents the body and blood of Jesus Christ, like the last, like the last Mass.
Wait,
and
like
that's called the Eucharist.
And blood of Jesus Christ.
The flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Cardboard Eucharist.
So you're eating the cards, like hot ones, but for flesh and blood? Didn't you guys already do that?
So anyway, that didn't happen. As I'm sure you can now tell.
That got vetoed pretty heavily across the board.
It is so funny, but it makes no damn sense.
It makes so much sense. Flesh and blood.
We gonna fucking put on sermons for Flesh and Blood players? Like, what?
Wait, hold on. Every Sunday.
So funny.
One thing we did know, and Joel especially pushed for this, is we did not want our podcast to be exactly the name of a Flesh and Blood card.
Now, here's the thing, right? I don't want to cast aspersions at any podcast that does do this. It's great for SEO. People will remember it. I fucking hate it. I think it's lazy. I think you can come up with really good names. You're more creative than that. So at least for my podcast, I did not want anything that starts after a card.
Dude, could you imagine naming your podcast after a card and then it gets like banned or something?
The Snatch Podcast.
That is, I don't know. That's a flesh and blood.
In game world, it's just a compliment. They're like, "Oh, you're looking really snatched today."
Or the Art of War podcast.
Art of War,
R.I.P.
like Sun Tzu.
Oh, yeah, that's another podcast.
That wouldn't be that bad.
Another potential name we had, and this one did get past the veto process, was Pure Fabrication.
Yeah.
That one was Fuzzy's idea, I think, right?
Well, yeah, it could have easily been, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like fabrication, flesh and blood. Yeah. We're fabricating ideas, but also we wanted to get like this amateur sense, you know? Pure Fabrication is like we're just coming up with it off the fly. It's just us. And I think we also envisioned us doing more custom cards. That's something that you will see in our earlier episodes.
Yeah.
So with Pure Fabrication, I think it would have set the tone pretty well.
Absolutely.
If I remember correctly, it's like part of it, like you come up with a name and then you got to like Google the name and you got to search on the podcast apps. And I feel like I remember doing that for Pure Fabrication, and it was a lot of like manufacturing industry podcasts. Like I feel like there might have been some shows called Pure Fabrication or something, and they're all just like, and here's how you go and like, you know, injection mold, like whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure someone is throwing the biggest tantrum because we stole their perfect like baseball podcast name.
Guys, I was shocked. Like whenever we like put this name to words and I started doing the search, I'm like, how has nobody done like pitch it to me? Like, I mean, there's like every like marketing, baseball, like there's so many things that would want that. But
or like Shark Tank enthusiasts.
Yeah. It's such a business thing. But I love the word pitch. And so I remember like trying to like iterate a whole bunch. And
Yeah, we sort of landed on the pitch being a good thing, and the pitch having the red, yellow, blue, having the 3 hosts.
Yeah,
generally wanting to do a topic per host every single episode. Like that was already something we had talked about in structure. So when it came up during our name conversation, it was just perfect.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of the biggest podcasts is Smart Lists, where you have 3 hosts and one of them brings a guest, the other 2 don't know who it is, and then they interview them. And I think that has like a similar vibe a little bit, where it was kind of like, you know, you guys are bringing topics again, especially in the early days where there was custom cards. You guys were bringing information that others didn't know. It's just cool to like see that concept that has been like very successful in other genres as
Absolutely.
well.
And like I came up with that name, right? Was anyone else going to claim that they did?
No, that was you.
Okay.
It was Fuzzy.
I thought it was
because he did it as a joke, and then he was like, "Wait, you guys like that?"
I remember I thought I had like 15 different pitch names that had the word pitch in it.
Maybe my memory is terrible.
I think Fuzzy may have pitched.
Oh,
I thought I came up with it before we had the meeting, but I could easily be wrong. It was 2 years ago.
I'll give you credit.
You have my notes, right?
There are a lot of like different potential pitch names down, but like
which one's
pitch
at
it
the top.
Pitch it to me. Pitch it to me like very clearly stands out above the rest.
That was probably Fuzzy then.
We also did like mock-ups of different logos as well at the time. That was really, really fun before we gave it to Han, and Han made our current logo.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up Red Pitch by kind of talking about how did we view the early days of the podcast, like our first 50 episodes, and what were some of the things that we were looking for to feel successful? Joel?
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I feel like reaching like 100 subscribers felt like a really tall goal, especially starting out. Like we didn't start it off of any particular big win at a tournament or anything like that. So I knew we were going to be small potatoes for a while. So 100 subscribers seemed like, okay, if we can do this, then we can eventually grow into something more. But yeah, honestly, as long as we were having fun doing it, I felt like we would be able to pivot in whatever direction we needed, because we had a very strong start in terms of the organization of everything, the vision, and like the different content ideas we could flex into.
Yeah, I remember I still kind of have this like belief, but the idea of producing something and just kind of releasing it and expecting people to watch it, like there's a lot of faith in an algorithm that I don't understand. So 100 subscribers feels like something that like is out of my control and therefore really difficult to achieve. Like that's kind of how I view content creation. And we've been blessed now after 2 years. We have 480 subscribers, 481.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to make it very clear during that very first year, things like metrics were very, very bad on the podcast.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if you actually like go back onto our YouTube and you scroll back to those very first few episodes that we did, it's like 20 views in the first week.
Yeah.
If that. Like it very much, and I remember having to like, when we're doing like the SoCal Armory cycle, I'm constantly like, hey, so I have a podcast. You know, we'd go to a calling, it's like, hey, I have a podcast.
Yeah.
And now it's strange because I'm getting to the point where I want to stop doing that because it feels almost a little egotistical to be like, I have like when I'm a small new young creator, it feels a lot better to sort of self-promote in that way. Now that I feel like we've gotten a little bit bigger and like I've actually gotten recognized when I go to events.
You more than either Fuzzy or myself. It's crazy.
So many people tell me, they're like, Clark, you have such a great podcasting voice. And like, they're like, I've heard your voice somewhere before. Do you do a podcast? And I'm like, yeah, how the fuck? But regardless, it's it almost feels weird now, but it didn't back then. I felt like I really had to grind, and we relied a lot on the local SoCal community to sort of be our listener base.
Yes.
Because they knew us and they liked us.
Yeah.
So they had a reason to listen. It's a lot like when someone does a Kickstarter and they need like $15,000 to fund the project, and then like $10,000 comes from their parents.
Yeah.
And friends. And it's like,
Hey, yo.
it's wonderful. It's wonderful that happened. Everyone's still happy that it like got to happen. But you're like, yeah, it's mostly like the base of people that they already knew that are really providing the help and the support.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like looking back on those early days too, like you guys were so disciplined and iterative with how you grew like what it was. Like you guys didn't have a Discord to begin with. You know, now it's like the Discord feels like a huge part of like the Pitch It To Me community. It's one of the ones I use most frequently. I love it. But like that was something that early on you wanted to make sure that you had the bandwidth to navigate it. And so like every little bit of growth as you hit these different benchmarks, as more listeners came in, as more people engaged, you kind of like slowly expanded to now like there's the Patreon, there's, you know, foil might token collaboration art stuff. And so that's been cool to see, but yeah.
But yeah, those early days were, they were definitely a lot smaller, a lot scrappier. I also think that like, as a result of that, we sort of invested less into the podcast.
Sure.
We skipped a lot more weeks in that very first year.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of this idea of like, well, if the only people who are going to listen are the people at our locals, like we could just see them, you know?
Yeah. Because at first it's a labor of love, right? Like we're doing this because we want to develop into a bigger show, but mostly because we enjoy talking to each other and we're enjoying the process of learning how to do like audio editing and learning how to do the video editing. So learning how to talk in front of a microphone. So
yeah, I will say one thing that I in the back of my mind was like, I want to do something creatively. I want to publish it and have other people look at it and talk shit about it, talk about how much they love it. Either way, I just wanted some type of feedback about, is this something that I'm capable of? Is this something that we are capable of?
Yeah.
And from there, it like really reignited my passion for the project. Not that it was like waning or anything, because like I was doing it unpaid. But yeah, so much of the public perception and you guys' feedback re-cemented that idea that we are capable of being good content creators. And that was certainly a driving force towards like, you know, even if we're not hitting our goal or metric goals per se, there was just a lot of like promise in the podcast that was really inspiring, I feel like.
But to bring it back up, to really end the pitch on sort of an upward note, I do remember how much joy every single time I got a new subscriber.
Yeah.
And I saw a new person had joined. Every single time that a local said, I remember the first time a local said, oh, someone's already told me about you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, locals are going out on their own and telling other people about our podcast.
Yeah.
And I also very distinctly remember when we first got our little set of metrics for the podcast and someone listened in like, I want to say it was Malaysia.
Which could have just been like some guy with a VPN. But
But I remember like we had viewers internationally and we're like, I think one of our jokes in those early episodes was now an international podcast.
Oh yeah, remember when we had to open every podcast with a joke?
Oh, yeah.
Those are so good. Do yourself a favor. Go back and listen to the first 30 seconds of every single Pigeon to Me episode for the first 50 episodes. There are some gems.
We have some banger jokes, I will say.
Well, we'll talk about that more in Yellow Pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Yellow Pitch, we're going to be talking about what the show looks like now, some changes that we've made and why we've made them. And one thing I do want to point out, first of all, is the amount of growth that we've had in the last year. We were talking about how in the first year we would have 20 views, 50 views on a video. There was one video maybe in the first year that did do really well. And I think that's because we had Talon on.
Yeah.
I was around the time that Pitch It To Me was starting up, or the Pitch It To Me Discord was starting up, we were also starting a Riptide Discord. And so I'd be getting lots of messages of hey, can you add me to the Riptide Discord? And I would literally be yes, here's the link to the Riptide Discord. And also, you should join the Pitch It To Me Discord because X, Y, Z. And I gave them my little pitch. But I think that there was overlap in the communities because the Riptide players, they're playing an off-meta deck. They liked brewing. They liked thinking about the card design. And so I do think it was a thematic fit. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, the whole joke was that I was starting a Riptide uprising in the community. And to this day, I feel some of the most active members are people that just randomly got invited through this Riptide.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bro, the Riptide players saved this podcast.
What was so interesting about that episode was that it was also one of the first times we really started doing thumbnails on episodes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really solid thumbnail. We had the Wojak meme of people pointing behind and doing the O face. The
yeah.
face.
Uh-huh.
And then it's just Riptide on a little stand in the back.
What was
it was expansion slots. And do we like expansion slots as a concept for the game?
Such a good episode.
But then also apparently the number, whatever episode number it was, and Talon somehow algorithmically got attached to some completely other board game or video game or Let's Play series. And we got 700 views.
Yeah.
And I'm how did we get 700 views? And I'm oh, these people didn't even listen to the podcast. It's literally 10 seconds. And then they click off. And I go, oh, it's because it's not about their thing at all. We just, the algorithm just put us into this completely random community.
That's so funny.
It's because I guessed it and YouTube loves me. This episode is going to pop off.
I still think it was a very successful episode, but I think it's also still telling that episode remains in our top 10.
Yeah.
I feel my next big milestone is kicking that episode out of the top 10 so that all 10 of our most viewed videos are not a result of an algorithmic glitch in the code.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, it's episode 29, 50 views. Episode 30, 63 views. Episode 31, 766 views.
Holy.
And then even episode 32, next after that, 77. It was there was a little bit of people who kind of stuck around.
Oh, wait a minute.
It definitely was a very good episode that resulted in an uptick and some momentum for us. Mm-hmm. It just also was paired with this glitch.
That's so funny.
But I think we learned a lot from that. And our other episodes that started to do well are on a similar vein, right?
Yeah.
So we've had a few episodes just in this past year that have really popped off. Mm-hmm. But our episode on delayed value was our next viral episode that I think really launched us into the wider community. We also started doing things on equipment basics, how Fab designs permanents, how many cards is a point worth, instant speed design. These are very generic topics, what we call evergreen topics, because they're always going to be something that the community can talk about, always something that the community can go back and reference and learn something from.
Yeah, these are the kind of stuff that I imagined we would be doing from the beginning of the podcast. It's not the only thing, but definitely talking about the nitty gritty of the design, what are the building blocks that make this game fun? And I'm hoping that we can find ways to continue expanding on these. That's why one of our first episodes is about the concept of control, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that people have been latching onto them. I think it showcases the strengths of our pod for sure.
And I think you guys talk about not being competitive players, but I think this is the kind of thing that taking that step back and looking at it from a design standpoint can actually help people become better players. Because often
Absolutely.
the competitive is talking so much about like specific meta, specific interactions, whatever. And then it's hard to kind of like take that step back and be like, well, let's look at the fundamentals of this game. Yes, in the video about, instant speed design or equipment value, like you might be talking about examples that are currently relevant, but there are lessons and takeaways that you could listen to that video a year, 2 years from its publishing date and still walk away a better Flesh and Blood player as a result of it.
I also kind of want to take this opportunity while we're talking about like how we find stuff to talk about on the show. I want to shout out Clark for being the best at it. Like one of the most consistent things we have to do is we have to come up with things to talk about. And Clark is really good at tapping into what have people been talking about? How can we relate like our brand and what we do on our show to spin it a little bit? And Clark is like really good at brainstorming awesome topics. And we all collectively talk about like how to refine those and what we personally want to talk about when we have that episode. But I think Clark is the best at coming up with these topics.
And he also knows us pretty well, so I feel like he can like figure out how to present things and also find topics that will like, ignite something in us to like get excited about a specific topic.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have definitely been like, this is something that I want to talk about. And so I actually spend time being like, Fuzzy, you like this topic because Joel, you'd like this topic because...
Yeah, you got to give your idea a little campaigning.
You don't know, but we know.
But being a content creator is pretty weird, huh?
Yeah, I think I don't think we've quite hit it big enough to where it would feel like super weird. I think we're still at the beginning stages where whenever somebody comes up to me because they know us, they're like, it's just a complete boon to our day. We're really happy to see them,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, it hasn't quite reached that point where it's like someone walks up and they're like, say the line, say the line.
I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, right? We're just really happy to have every single one of our fans, and any enthusiasm that people have about our show is just like amazing to us.
And no matter how good we get at the show or like how popular we get, I feel like it would be hard to feel like removed socially from the community, because I feel like that's what brings us back to the game is the community and spending time with people. And I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. I talk so much with some of our listeners and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because like I'm a content creator, but also like these people are cool and I like getting to know people. And, obviously what we say does matter and the conversations we have do matter, but it feels like there's a lot of feedback you can get from people just by talking to them. And also like you want to build a community, make sure people feel welcomed into your Discord, not only in the Discord itself, but like you can't be weird and standoffish to people either. That's at least something that I've been thinking about a lot. And one thing, I don't know how you guys have been experiencing this, but I also feel like there's some level of imposter syndrome. And like, or at least whenever I do something creatively or do any sort of project, I always have like this negative outlook on it. Like I need to have it be perfect, or I need to like substantiate why people would want to listen to me or why people would want to buy something from me or pay me for something. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. And I would hear you guys' thoughts about it too. But like, I've definitely not only understood that it's okay to suck at something or do something terribly first and then it just improve over time.
Yeah.
That's something I've struggled with basically all my life. And so like this experience is helped me sort of dispel that toxic like hustle culture, I guess, that you have to be like extremely good at something to do something. But and people I think are a lot more kind and a lot more supportive than I give them credit for, because like people have loved this show and I'm like, really? This episode is the one that popped off?
Well, I think it's really healthy to want to produce something good quality for sure.
Absolutely.
And that can be a great like mantra or goal or mindset paradigm, if you will. But I don't think we should try to let it stop us from having a good time,
Absolutely.
And there are definitely scenarios where it's better to produce something than to produce something perfect. Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Absolutely.
Phrase.
It was very interesting going back and reading the notes. Sorry to sort of bleed red pitch into yellow pitch here, though, because a lot of what I wrote in those original notes and things I really wanted to make sure was written down was Clark wants to have fun. Clark wants this to be a fun experience with friends. That is what Clark wants. And that is because I was fighting against my inherent nature to game things. And like, I have become the thumbnail guy for us. I have become the video editor for us. I have become the person who does social media for us because I know, and I knew even back then, that is the kind of person I am. I am terminally online and I want things to go well. You know, I listen to like the Colin and the Samir show, and I really like it when content creators talk about why they do content creation. Like, it is fun for me to think about those things. And so I'm like, I really don't want to lose that homegrown three friends getting together in a garage feeling.
Yeah.
Because I know I can get so carried away with this idea of like, well, what topics is going to do best this week?
Yeah. And I think we all have felt that shift in the podcast where it is no longer 100% us just trying to have a good time. We've always wanted the podcast to grow, and we've actually come to a point now we are picking topics and changing the way that we do our show because we want it to be more engaging. We want to get more clicks. Like, that is a very real thing.
Yes.
If
To put it simply, thumbnails and video titles matter.
Yeah.
They just do. Again, like the reason why Talon's episode did so well was because the algorithm recognized a number and the word Talon, and we had a good thumbnail. Those three things are the reason that episode did well.
Yeah.
And I think we're generally making decisions now that are trying to be true to our show. Well, we're not trying to like clickbait or anything, but we do want to have titles that are a little bit more zany, a little bit more grabby, and like don't just give you the flat title of what we're doing. Like, we wouldn't have an episode titled Control now, you know?
And, one thing that I wanted to make a goal for myself when we started, again, more red pitch topic in yellow, but it'll be quick. I always pictured myself being the social media guy, and Clark has flourished in that role where I have just not had the motivation or creativity to perform as well. Like, his thumbnails are just blow ours out of the water with creativity, and like they're always really funny. And Clark is like, "Is this too much?" I'm like, "No, send it right now." and even in my job, like I work in marketing, and I've noticed that every time I try to approach something with social media, it just doesn't vibe with me as much as the logistics and organization of things do, and just like being more efficient with our time. So I feel like all of us have had some sort of evolution in what we expected to do and what the podcast needed, as well as like, can we still keep the, like Clark was saying, the energy of like three dudes in a garage podcast vibe.
And I think as far as like how we're shaping our content, one example, the clearest example to me is like the use of custom cards.
Yes.
Like in our first like 50, 100 episodes, our first like 20, 50 episodes, we were probably every like sixth episode or so, we were like doing something where we do custom cards.
I would say even at least once a month, every 3 to 4 episodes.
Yeah. So like as an example, we'd be like, what does the alchemist class look like? Let's all come up with cards for alchemist class. And we've kind of recognized that the community doesn't want that.
Well, like I want to make it clear, there is a community that really likes that content.
Yeah.
But they are a very small subsection
It's more
of
niche.
the wider fab community.
It's so funny to me too, like looking back at that, because that was something that like I got wrong early. I was like a huge proponent for custom cards. I was like, you guys need a custom card every episode. Like, I saw how big that community was in like Magic, for example, and how there wasn't that in Flesh and Blood yet. And so I was like, let's do this. And then of course, as you start putting out episodes, you get feedback, that kind of thing, that shifts a little bit. But one of my favorite moments was we were at, I think it was Pro Tour LA or something. And, the Brian Gottlieb was there doing a Q&A, and Clark, I believe you actually got to chatting with him. You told him about the podcast. He was so excited about it. And then we brought up the custom cards, and he was like, oh, I can't listen to that because there's legal stuff, right? They can't, if they hear a custom card and then they make the custom card or something like it,
or something even inspired by
exactly
it.
Like even on, or even if something is already being made, if we just happen to like hit the nail on the head, like that can cause legal stuff,
which has happened before.
Sure.
Right? Like we have designed custom cards that have been scarily close to real cards that LFS has printed.
My signpost hybrid design.
Yeah. But it's interesting, like seeing kind of like, well, I love the custom cards, and we've done some really amazing things like that, like the custom card contest, I think was amazing.
Oh my God, that was so fun.
Seeing that like scaled back, it just kind of like makes sense. And it's interesting seeing the fallout of some of those decisions.
Yeah, there was always this sort of let's call it a pipe dream. We did talk about this in the very first meeting of like, there is a dream of like, this results in us getting recognized by LSS and like someone getting a job, being able to work again. Like,
Yeah.
and hey, that's not that crazy because that's how Carol got on the team.
Yeah,
like, a lot of the early people, a lot of the people that LSS has hired as consultants, right?
Yeah.
3 floating,
They're still doing it.
TCG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were people who made content that LSS really enjoyed. And LSS reached out to them and started working with them. And now they get paid by LSS to do work for LSS. I think there was always kind of this maybe, like just maybe, guys. And like when the head dev says, oh, we literally might not be able to engage with your podcast because you do custom cards.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, well, then we kind of have to stop doing custom cards, right?
Yeah,
And I think it's also just, it's indulgent, I think.
absolutely.
I like doing them and making them and talking about them, but I'm not convinced that our entire audience does. So I think it just makes sense to cut them. But a little piece of me has died in order to continue making this
absolutely.
show.
But I will say in the Discord, there's a custom card channel that's still all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's still like, if that's a part of the show that you like or a part of the community that you like, we got a spot for that. Tons of people posting cool designs. You get feedback. We break it down. We get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And I never want to kill it. I don't want to
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
let's never do it. It's
Right.
more of,
That can't be the bulk of our content.
yes,
Yeah.
when it is the right thing to talk about, that's when we should talk about it.
And like, if I really want to make custom cards for our project, it would be in a video aside from the actual podcast. I think like as a podcast, it's hard to tell you a card, right?
Yes. Right.
So that's another thing. It's the format that also gets in the way.
Yeah, we're an audio only podcast.
Yeah.
Or no. I'm just kidding.
And so, like, it's really difficult to be like, yeah, look at this abstract card concept idea. Like, it without a really clear visual, it can be very, very difficult to comprehend what we're talking about. And I think we noticed that there were like dips at that point of the podcast that like things started not like they weren't getting views, they weren't getting the conversation. And so, yeah, like if the big people that give us the biggest points of validation for our content creation can't really support us as a result of it, and if the audience isn't really connecting with it, it's time for that to take a back seat.
Yeah.
Similarly, like the fact that we don't tell a joke at the beginning during our intro, I think we kind of realized that like the shorter the intro, the better, because we want people to like be able to immediately start listening to the actual meat of the podcast. So we started like trimming down that intro. It is also taking us a while to try to write a joke at the beginning.
Bro, the light that would die from our eyes as soon as like, oh, we have to do the fucking joke.
We would sometimes literally sit down and be like, we are ready to record. And we'd scroll up to the intro, see insert joke here, and go, oh, fuck. We forgot to do a fucking joke.
Now, mind you, I think we're a funny podcast. There's lots of funny moments. It is hard to, I need to be funny right now.
Oh,
and it needs to land with people.
Yeah, and it needs to be short. It needs to be snappy. It needs to be contained. Like, there's a reason why like television writers and comedy writers exist as a profession. One thing I loved about the jokes is how good they were, though. Like, that is like a challenging endeavor, and legitimately, there's so many bangers in that. Like,
absolutely,
that is a wonderful little portfolio, and I still have type 5 for like any of you guys who like wanted to do more of that, because it was good. I get why it went. One of my favorite things, though, definitely go back, listen to some of those old just intros. They're great.
Can we do
like
one of the OG ones that like I constantly hear people tell me how they loved how funny it was?
I hope it's the one I'm thinking of.
It's the welcome to Pitch to Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Yes, we are 3 men doing a podcast, but don't worry, we're not all straight and we're not all white.
I died.
Bro,
God.
That's peak flesh and blood right there.
Was that, I think I was there for that one, right? Was that the expansion slot?
You
one?
may have been there for that one.
I remember us laughing so fucking hard, and I think that's why that episode took off.
Yeah.
The joke was so good.
God, that was such a good one.
They listened for the joke and they're like, I don't need to hear the rest of this. I've gotten everything I need out of this.
We're going to see that episode spike as everyone goes back to listen to that joke.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, great.
Like, I scroll back this far for that.
Does anybody want to talk about changes that we've made to the podcast?
Is there anything else that we've like notably changed about the podcast as we've grown over this past period?
I feel like we've been adding some pretty interesting like ways for other people to engage. Like, obviously we did the custom card design contest with a giveaway attached to it, but we've also just done giveaways fairly sporadically, but they've been a lot of fun to incorporate like new stuff or new ways to engage, like with the pitch and predictions as well.
I think if you like look at like the big picture of the show, there's been little knobs that have been twisted or like certain topics that have been cut or added, but like the basic structure of the show has remained the same. The basic flow of the show has remained the same. I think that like we did such a good job developing something cohesive early on that everything else has just been like swapping in the bits and pieces, which is something that we intended to do, right? Like with the three pitch model, like that gave us a lot of like flexibility and like, you know, the ability to be modular. Like the smorgasbord episodes, I think would be like the biggest like structural or topic departure from like the initial stuff of like 3 topics are completely disconnected, but even that fits within the structure. Like, so it's a good show. And I think that's indicative of it.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we've grown into is community.
Yeah.
And like building and trying to hold a community and trying to foster that community.
Yeah.
Our Discord's going really strong. Always nice to see new people join.
Yeah. The Patreon, which is heavily tied to it because that's where we do a lot of our engagement with our patron members, is through our Discord. But also just like our live streams even, right? And like trying to do live episodes during special moments. Our anniversary episodes are typically live streamed.
Yeah.
The second anniversary one that we did very recently was certainly an experience.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more work involved, and that's mainly because we don't normally offer video content. So that when we have to like switch gears and do the planning often like relatively before the episode, because we don't have the time to put their infrastructure in place ahead of time.
Yeah, I know it sometimes will just look like it's just us sitting on a couch with a camera in front of us, but we swear we're putting so much thought into how we're like sounding and how we can like craft the space to like make the sound better and realize we don't have the tools to really do that.
And like keep people off camera but still able to like quickly come in and help. And
right.
Especially whenever, because they did like hot ones essentially for this 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
So we just had like
do you think there's only like, do you think it's just like Sean, like, oh, I'm going to go into this black room and set down this black table and like Uber Eats 2 sets of wings,
there's like
plain wings, and toss them in the. No, there's like 20 people there.
There's so much sauce. There's so much chicken. Like, and we learned stuff after. If you guys are doing hot ones, like have a toaster oven or something ready, because as it went on and they were just eating like cold chicken, that was like incredibly spicy. But anyways, the live streams have been great. I've been really enjoying those.
Actually, that may have helped.
Yeah,
chicken was warm. It may have fucked up.
Honestly,
so much
yeah, and it's so funny because I feel like every time we do it, we're like, we're never doing this again, and then we get really excited to for our next project or whatever. But
God damn it!
Like, all right.
Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Oh man.
To talk a little bit more about the Patreon, I'm super proud and again really grateful to everybody who has decided to give us money so we can keep doing our show. It really means a lot to us. I don't mind going on record and saying that I think we haven't really lived up to what we were hoping to provide with the Patreon. I think like if you're like me, you are subscribed to us and our Patreon because you like us and you don't really care if you get a lot out of the service that we're supposed to be providing. But as far as I'm really happy with like the Crucible League that we've been doing,
Awesome.
but I think we were all kind of expecting to be writing. I think we were all kind of expecting to be like writing more articles maybe, or doing a little bit more with the Patreon. And so that's something we're definitely going to be looking to improve on in the future and spend a little bit more time on. Time management is hard for us as a podcast because we've talked a little bit about how much time it takes just to do all the editing and writing the scripts and meeting to record.
I mean, that's part of why we go on a hiatus, whereas other podcasts go, completely.
They take like maybe a week off.
Yeah. And I feel like the burnout is very real when it comes to like doing it every single week. And it obviously, if you don't plan well enough ahead in the beginning or the end of the year, you can't like bank any episodes. So then it's like, again, we're back to the every single week. We need to make sure that we edit the podcast twofold and come up with the next podcast topic for the following week. So it can be hard to add more stuff, but I think that's definitely something that we're looking forward to changing in the future, where we have more flexibility to add all these ambitious ideas that we have. So we appreciate your patience and hope you'll stay tuned for the updates.
Yeah. To bookend talking about that consistency and time management, I think one of the reasons we've had such great growth this year is because of how consistent we've been.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? If we look at the narrative of like our first year being, okay, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned, small, very, I guess like organic growth, or maybe it wouldn't be called organic growth, would it, Talon? Of the like, we have to like reach out to people and be like, hey, I have a podcast, come listen to it. If that's sort of what the first year is, the second year, grassroots campaign. The second one is much more of that like organic growth of like, we are consistently putting out good content every single week after week, and we're seeing number constantly go up. We're not having some big exponential jump that we then drop from. It has always just been a steady increase.
Yes.
To where at the end of the month, we've gone nearly since August, we have had every single episode clear 300 views within a week. And in the past, I want to say 6 or 8 episodes, it's been 400 views within a week.
Yeah.
Like it has just been a steady growth period throughout the second year. And I think that's been really special. I think it's a point to the community that we've been trying to foster. I think it goes to the consistency that we've learned. And yes, gaming the system a little bit more, doing the thumbnails, doing the titles of the episodes.
I think gaming is also like, I mean, we've been doing it, I feel like, very ethically compared to like some more egregious examples, not necessarily in Fab, but like in YouTube in general. I feel like I've been really happy with the way that we've been able to garner this extra growth over time without having to resort to any like scummy tactics, like I guess you would call it.
Yeah. We don't need to Mr. Beast the podcast.
Right.
I think that's about all I've got for Yellow Pitch, talking about where our show's at for now. But now that we've looked at the past and the present, I think someone's got to give us a vision of the future.
Ooh.
So Joel, why don't you take it away with Blue Pitch?
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to talk about the juicy stuff, the ambitious ideas that we have coming to the podcast. And this is also, I mean, this has always been like what excites me about the podcast is like, how can we grow into new horizons and upgrade the podcast and add more stuff to our resume, truthfully. I feel like this has been a very good vehicle in all of us to express ourselves professionally and creatively. And before we get into all of the points that we have for this pitch, I want to quickly note that this isn't going to be a pitch where we talk about all the new and flashy things that we're bringing up. And it's not just going to be like a laundry list of additives that we're putting into the show, but really talk about the vision of the podcast as a whole, how we expect it to develop, and just the vision overall compared to, just a laundry list of promises.
Yeah, we're just doing some daydreaming, like what could the future hold?
And I'm going to start off with something we touched on briefly in the Yellow Pitch, which is the Patreon. We talked about our expectations of the Patreon not necessarily being met on our end, but we do have a lot of plans for those benefits being a bit more inclusive or a bit more easy for us to execute so that we can give you guys more value, more good content. And the first thing I can think of is monthly articles. Clark has been really the only one semi-consistently posting the articles. But now I think at least by the 10th of every month, you can expect something to be posted, whether it be like an in-depth article about the B&R or anything else going on in the Fab Metascape. But also I think we're going to start posting more about what we're doing competitively. You know, we're not gonna instantly pivot to a competitive oriented analysis podcast, but each of us, I think, have our own journey for our competitive. But each of us are growing more and more competitive in Fab, and I think that's really good insight to any podcaster to add.
We've also talked about adding video. We've been talking about adding video like all of 2025.
Yeah.
Like in terms of that, like becoming more traditional YouTube podcast. Talon, you were saying everyone gets discovered on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
Like video is so necessary, and ours right now is just a slideshow.
And can I say the growth that we've had as audio only podcast? I mean, that's got to say something.
That's kind of the other thing about all this. Video is such a big thing, but people are still mostly just listening to it. It's just like you need the video for like growth to a certain degree. But as you guys have been talking about and learning and trying to solve, like it is a challenging thing. Like anytime you add video, that's a whole nother dimension you're adding to your podcast. Like where you record, your soundproofing, the table layout. All of a sudden now you're like, oh, I have to like comb my hair and shower before a taping.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Fuck that shit.
But like video is just so much extra. It's cool. I'm excited for you guys to like get there when you're ready and when it makes sense and all that kind of stuff. But for those listening, it's challenging.
I mean, hopefully soon. We've been talking about it.
We had,
and it feels like it's not hard at all because like everyone does it, and then you actually have to do it after having 2.5 years of established workflow. Without it,
your editing workflow is going to change too. Now you can't edit in Audacity or audio editing tools. You need to be doing like Premiere, DaVinci, whatever video stuff you got.
Right.
It's crazy.
And I will say one thing that's been really exciting. We had a very productive meeting about turning the garage into like a recording studio, and I just couldn't help but feel so blessed and appreciative of our community because we were like, oh man, this is kind of a big financial investment, but we have patrons. That's what patrons are for. Is like we obviously appreciate the support, even when we had very little to offer you guys, but now we're able to level up the podcast in a very dramatic way. And I just can't thank you guys enough for your continued support. And we're so excited to be able to add this video content, and you get to see our beautiful faces every single week. That's awesome.
If we don't put out a video in 2026, man, like what? It's gotta happen.
Don't put that out there. We're going to. Absolutely, we're going to.
But with that, I think we've also found that we've had a lot more content ideas for things that don't work in the podcast structure. Like, as much as we said, oh, this is a very elegant structure, and as much as we've been talking about how much actual freedom we found within it, there's also a lot we can't do with it.
Right.
And we've wanted to do some content ideas that just have not worked in podcast format. Like we've been talking about designing a cube forever.
Dude.
And it's so ready for that.
And it's like,
I have a list.
I know, but it's like, how do we do a cube on a podcast? Like, it's already so hard to talk about individual cards on a podcast and make sure everyone's tracking.
Right.
How do we talk about the complexity that a cube has with its shape, its draft formats, the different archetypes, how many cards exist within those, any unique rules that may exist? I mean, it is a mess to do audio only cube content. So like you kind of have to have a video. You need to have some other component to it. And again, that's just another brand new workflow that we would need to incorporate into everything. And that is difficult to do.
Right. And Clark had this really great idea about some new gameplay videos, and that's been sort of a challenge to figure out how to do that as well. Like, do we do it at the at our garage set, or do we do it at locals? Like, there's a lot of different moving parts to consider. Outside of just like, we also need to buy a camera.
And if I can also just completely rip the curtain down and say hello to the wise old wizard back there, like LSS did their creator grants in 2025.
Yes.
And every single creator, whether they meant to or didn't mean to, took lessons from how LSS handled that. One was they will pick who they want to work with. That is very clear. It is not going to be a very democratized sort of like, well, this person got picked and like maybe we don't know. LSS picks who they want to work with. And that's completely fine.
I would even say that's the way they should do it for their company, their brand.
Absolutely.
But there's also, you see the trends with what each creator said they do and what LSS said they liked about that person's content. And nearly every single person who got selected either talked about already doing paper gameplay or wanting to do paper gameplay but not having the money for the equipment. Paper gameplay is clearly something that LSS wants content creators to be making.
Yeah, God forbid people actually play the game.
I know.
Sitting here just talking about it for 100 hours.
But like Talishar gameplay is not on the same field to LSS as paper gameplay.
Totally.
And like Flesh and Blood, where did the name come from? Playing the game in the Flesh and Blood.
Yep.
You know, Talishar is not blessed by LSS. It's sort of like how Nintendo treated Project M for quite a while.
Yes.
Of like, we know you exist and we're not going to look at you. Like, paper gameplay is very obviously a thing that they are very dedicated to supporting. If we want to grow and get recognized by LSS, paper gameplay is one of the cleanest and easiest things that they have indirectly told us they are looking to support.
Absolutely.
And I think we're all excited to do that, right?
Yeah, like it's fun to play the game. We love playing. I go to so many goddamn armories. People cannot tell me that I don't like to play this game. As much as I rage about it.
And also, like, I just think back to when we first attempted gameplay videos and like,
it was rough.
How much of a fucking clusterfuck that was.
I don't think we were even able to post it.
No.
Yeah.
It was like it was like 2-bit video. Like you couldn't see anything, and we had like this commentator portion of it too. It was so much fun to record just to like have it all burned in the fire.
And it's definitely traumatized us from like pushing to do it more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But like it's something we do want to add. And then the moment that we get that set up ready to go, it opens up a lot more opportunities for talking head sort of style videos of like sort of like, hey, we're on hiatus, but Clark has all these B&R thoughts.
Yeah.
Now I will have a set and a place where I can go sit down and discuss that and not have to involve the two of you. We don't need to turn it into a 3-person process. I mean, how many content creators are just one person?
Right.
No, even the show I work on, Game of Roses, that they've been doing that, where it's like, they have, I mean, they put out like 2 episodes a week, so they're recording all the time. Reality TV moves fast. There's still stuff that comes out, and they do exactly that, which is one of the hosts is just going to be like, okay, I'm going to record on my own 10-minute video, just me chatting, run-of-the-mill thoughts, post it up, and then you get more videos up there. You know, can capitalize on viral moments, like all that kind of stuff.
And it's so much easier in terms of like, I always think of it in terms of action potential.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know, is the literal chemical term of like, you need a certain amount of energy for a thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like, for me, there is a certain action potential to releasing a piece of content. And 3 people increases that action potential.
Yes.
Being able to have our own separate video set up so that so one person can do their own thing or maybe do it in their room at their apartment or whatever, it reduces that threshold. And it means we can fire more and make more content.
Absolutely.
So
I definitely feel like once we get over that hurdle of incorporating a video, the podcast is going to fucking explode in popularity. And also, like, it's going to be a lot of fun to record all these cool video concepts.
Yeah, hopefully.
One thing I would love to do with our show is get more collaborations, and whether that's like having our hosts appear on other people's podcasts. I feel like we haven't got a lot of invites for that, like, ever.
Yeah.
You guys
Does
gotta
no one
pitch
like us?
yourself.
Like,
Zero criticism.
Gotta walk you through
You
that,
do
guys.
not have to reach out to us.
No, you do.
No.
Clark is a top 16 HE competitor. How has he not gotten an
You
invite?
do not need to if you do not want to. And I will still like you anyway. Mutuals. People I don't even interact with.
Yeah, Whippy, where's my invite?
No, we're kidding. I know that Clark's been able to appear on the Table Pit or Pit Against, that show. That's been pretty cool. And I've loved every one of our guests that we've had on our show. I would love to do more of that in the next year.
Dude, we've had some amazing guests in the past, and I'd love to do more of that.
We've also had some guests and scheduling just kind of fall through the cracks because we already have 3 people trying to make a schedule work.
Yes.
You add a 4th, you know.
Mhm.
Especially if they're a different time zone.
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the dream guest always has been and probably always will be Jimmy White himself.
Yes.
Good old
Yes.
Jimmy White.
I think we're still not at the point where we feel brave enough to ask James White if he would come
I've
on our
never
show.
spoken to him. I don't know if
Yeah.
I ever will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's too scary because of the respect.
Yeah.
He made Flesh and Blood.
I also just recognize that he's a very busy individual.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
making Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
He's probably taking a Zoom call on the toilet, dude. Like,
We'll talk options though. I have some experience with some
oh,
big asks on guesting.
Oh.
If I can also sort of reveal a bit of how the sausage is made, talk about the stuff that's happening. One of the reasons why the 100th episode got delayed is because we put a lot of work into trying to get a dev on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we reached out to some and we got a very, very kind response, which also let us know that it's going to be very unlikely for us to appear. You should be talking to James White and Brian.
right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. And they're very busy people. They're not always on social media. And when they do appear, a lot of the times it's for marketing purposes.
Right.
A new set is coming out and they want to get people excited about that. They want positive content circulating about the game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is going to change in color a little bit about the content that we make in that regard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd be talking shit sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've been getting more into Magic in the last few months, especially, and especially watching Magic content on YouTube. And the Tolarian Community College, the professors had some very negative Magic. So I mean, this is just a rough year for Magic in general, especially with the Spider-Man set and stuff. But it's crazy how even with all of that negative criticism that's still there, if you're coming at it from a point of we love the game, we care about this game, we want to talk about it in all of its facets, he has still been able to. I think he had Gavin Verhey on recently.
Oh, nice.
So it's
You can still have them and foster and have a good relationship.
Absolutely.
At the same time, when you have Gavin on, you're not going to be like, so Spider-Man fucking sucked? What's wrong with you? Why did you do that?
when is Guardian going to be good?
Oh my God. The most...
Oh, I know exactly what you're bringing up. I know
Talon
exactly.
fucking triggers me, dude.
I know exactly what you're going to bring up.
We're
right
having
now.
such a good conversation with them at the PTLA, and we're having everyone's asking fairly decent questions, good deep questions at the live dev talk. And then one guy just has to go, when are you gonna make Guardian good? And it's like, you fucking asshole.
I think it was the last question of the day.
Oh
too.
my
It was
God.
such a
It's so
fuck ass.
clearly killed the vibe.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing live dev talks. Wonder why.
Yeah.
But point is, I think that I think it's possible.
There's
And
a time-
we'll talk more behind the scenes too. Like I said, we'll look at
Yeah.
guessing.
There's a
like
time
you
and
said.
place for critique, and it's not in the face of a dev, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all agree there.
Yeah.
So please come on the show. We won't yell at you.
I will be on my best behavior. I promise.
Joel won't even mention Bolton once.
Nope.
We can all pretend
No.
that hero doesn't exist, just like you guys like to do.
I think we're going to say Bolton, then I'll get really quiet and look at Joel. and then you're going to be like, yeah, I like Bolton.
I think I'm going to surprise you guys with my restraint.
Oh,
and
yes,
my
yes,
professionalism.
Wow.
No, of course. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all have the ability to do that.
Mm.
And we talk all the time about how wonderful the Flesh and Blood community is at being mature,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? I think we all have the ability to recognize there's a time and a place.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be Twitter posting in front of the fucking devs.
Yeah.
While we're talking about potential pipe dreams, pie in the sky, visions for the podcast, I think I want to talk about how I would love to be a competitive Flesh and Blood player. I know I've had a lot of time to work on that, but if I ever decide to really, I don't know, I feel like I would need a lot more resources and time, but if one of us actually wins a calling or top 8s at Worlds, and lets us get that notoriety that comes from being a competitive player with results, I think that would be amazing for our show.
You can't see the look on my face, but I'm a little confused because Fuzzy has won a limited RTN.
Yeah.
Ozzy's won RTNs. Joel, you've won multiple RTNs.
I'm a name at locals. We're names at locals. We've established that, and I'm really happy with like how we've been able to do that in the last couple of years. But like internationally, we're not competitive players, you know?
Yeah.
Well, so our locals are internationally competitive players.
Bro,
like, you guys are playing it like Chris Iali. Like, I mean, the whole AGE Pro team, which is only getting more and more like professional and well-known and that kind of thing. I mean, they'll just like go to a random event and then clean house.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a schlub at this game. I'm a solid day 2 Natser, you know?
Absolutely. Which is impressive, I just want to say.
Day 2 is where you make top 8. I mean, you're not that far
exactly.
off.
Yeah. And it starts tomorrow with our first RTN of the season.
Absolutely.
I mean, very much talking about how like video can really help really explode the podcast.
Yeah.
I think winning an event, I mean, we've talked about it all the time here on the pod about how competitively oriented the Flesh and Blood community is.
Yeah.
Again, sort of bookending, going back to Red Pitch, one of the first things we said about the podcast was we don't want to be a competitive podcast because there's a million of those.
Yeah.
At the same time, you kind of have to put up results for people in this space to really like give you the time of day.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being a competitive podcast. I just don't feel like I quite have the results to make people like convinced. I don't even have a whole lot to say necessarily yet, but
we're getting there.
No.
Right now I'm also really busy with work and school. I'm in a teaching credential program, but maybe like next year, 2027, 2028, like it'll be my year and I can really spend more time competitive grinding.
Yeah. At the same time, I think that I would want to get the win and still just not really talk about it. Like, I just...
Nonchalant.
It's not necessarily being nonchalant. It's like, okay, I got to win. Like, there's a saying in some spaces where you're only as good as your last result.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're only as good as your last patient. You're only as good as your last... I think Flesh and Blood is very much like that. Yeah, sure, you could have won a calling 3 years ago, but unless you're still putting up results, you're only as good as your last result. And the fact of the matter is, like, I don't think that is a healthy way to approach your self-respect. And how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I do not want to be a results-oriented person in this game. It's one of those reasons why I'm like, I want this to be about having fun with my friends because I know I'm going to be someone who is going to get way too fucking interested in metrics. And I'm going to get hurt when those metrics start looking bad. I know that's going to happen to me. I really don't want that becoming my only relationship with Flesh and Blood.
Right.
So even if I'm able to compete, and I do want to compete and get better, I need to focus on that element. Getting better rather than setting results and trying to chase them, failing, and then having all the self-esteem issues.
Does anyone else want to share like a pie in the sky, like wild dream for the podcast?
Spoilers for PITM.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers for PITM.
Yesterday.
Surely this year is the year
They
we
have
get
to
a
have
spoiler card.
so many cards, right?
Isn't this set extra big?
I think we all need to get spoilers for PITM tattooed on our foreheads so that every opponent that we play, I mean, you guys do, because I'm not really a host, but I think the three of you should get that tattooed on your face.
Jesus.
This year, I have had fans just say to me, unprompted, haven't you guys gotten a spoiler yet? They're like, what? You guys should 100% have a spoiler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. They haven't given us a spoiler.
At the risk of
I don't know what to say.
At the risk of sounding like a pompous asshole and comparing ourselves to people who shouldn't have gotten one versus us who should have got one, I think it's a little too late for pens, spoiler cards, but I think with the improvements that we're going to make with the podcast, I'm very confident we can make that change and have a sweet trailer for a sweet spoiler card.
Yeah.
I think we should, one of the first videos we should do is a hello LSS. We are Pitch It To Me podcast. And this is our, hold on, let me look at the note card here. Our petition to get a spoiler card for set 19. We have been producing content for this game loyally since 2023. And we would...
Loyally is crazy.
You gotta full send it. You gotta be like, all right, LSS, here's how this is gonna work. We are gonna record a video spoilering a card. We're going to guess. If we get it right, you have to let us spoil that card.
We've been wanting
Balance of justice reprint.
we've been wanting to do a spoiler since day 0, guys. Since frame 1.
0.
That's the whole reason they started this podcast.
Yeah.
We're going
There's
to
truth to
spoil
that.
and disappear off the face of the earth.
I believe in you guys.
No.
Anything else before we wrap up Blue Pitch?
Are you
I
guys going to
think-
go back to talking about how the show will end? We'll all die.
Yeah. So look, PITM will inevitably have to end. Like,
Maybe even really soon. Like I said, I'm going to be really busy this.
Yeah, Fuzzy's had some troubling developments with his teaching where I'm like,
yeah, he's like, I'm not going to be available Monday through Friday. And we're like, that's most days. But it's, look, I the reason why I bring this up is I always think it's important to know what an ending you want looks like. Right? I think it's a lot better to end things on your own terms than being forced by circumstance. I think it's always better to do something nice at the end, something maybe a little bit big or special at the end than something small. I got to read an article recently, Mana Club number 34, titled Goodbye by Jake Brown. This is a content creator for Magic the Gathering, and I found it through Ristic Studies, one of my favorite content creators for Magic. The man is incredibly insightful, and I know that whatever he recommends is usually going to be a good read. So he recommended Jake Brown's article here. In the article, Jake quotes another content creator, Dan Sheehan, and his goodbye from Piebreak, and this is the quote from Dan, "Be careful who you entrust your joy to. There's obviously an inherent risk to taking something you love and trying to turn it into a product that people can consume, but there's also a risk in trading participation for consumption."
Yeah.
And earlier, just before he put in that quote into his article, he also said, "I need to center my life around something more meaningful than a game I play. The game can still be a part of it, but it can't be the juicy center." And I think that was a very, very meaningful comment. I used to play Magic the Gathering. I used to play a lot of League of Legends. I used to do a lot of things. One day, Flesh and Blood may be the thing that I used to do. Flesh and Blood can still be a big, wonderful, amazing, creative thing. I can still hold on to a collection. I can still have a binder. I could still have a deck that's legal to play. Levi's not going fucking anywhere. But it can move from the center of my circle to an outside ring of my circle.
Yeah.
And things move. Priorities change over life.
Yep.
In the Goodbye article that Jake wrote, he is also talking about how he's investing more time in his partner and investing in more time into his day job and how much joy that's bringing him and how much better his life is as a result of that. He talks about how there's a moment where he goes to a testing team and the pros are like showing up late and asking who got breakfast. And he's like, man, why am I doing this? He's like, this is not bringing me the same enjoyment that it used to bring me. And I think it's always good to know when things in your life shift for the worst and whether you need to shift how you interact with that thing or if you need to let that thing move a little bit farther away from you. And right now, Flesh and Blood is very close to the center of my life. It's how I engage with Fuzzy. It's how I engage with Joel. These two very important friends in my life. But at the same time, yes, there will come a point where Flesh and Blood becomes the thing I used to do, and the podcast will come to an end. Or we get so big LSS hybrids us and we become the next Dev Talk, baby.
Let's go!
I mean, we don't need James White and Brian Go. We got Fuzzy, Clark, and Joel to tell you about all the wacky developments happening in the dev room.
That part.
or we all get hired as devs at LSS.
Oh, yeah. And then it's just Flesh and Blood all day, every day. I wake up, it's Flesh and Blood. I go to bed, it's Flesh and Blood.
That would be the most amazing end. Could you imagine? You're like, all right, this is our final episode.
I sleep on my flesh and
we're
blood
getting
print
hired.
sheets.
What'd you say?
I sleep on my flesh and blood print sheets, you know? Like the Command and Conquer art, just kind of like...
That's the mattress. It's just like a...
Yeah, this show could end with our grandchildren's children. It could go on
It
forever.
really could.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could become the legacy. This could be the thing we pass down to future
Your
generations.
son will inherit the show. It'll be Clark, Fuzzy, and Joel Jr.
It would actually be Joel the Fourth.
Joel the fourth. Because you're the third.
Yep.
Wow.
Put some respect.
Joel
on
Jr.,
it.
Jr.
Junior to the third power.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed thinking about the future with us. Obviously, there's so many different ways that the show can grow, and each version of it excites me equally, although it would be sick to get a spoiler card. Please, God. Please give it to us. Please, I'll be so good. But there's another part of the show we need to get to, and that's called the Arsenal Zone.
The Arsenal Zone.
And yes, the Arsenal Zone is the part of the podcast where we talk about a card. It could be a card that we like, a card that we hate, a card that we like to hate. But today, we are each doing a card that signifies our PITM journey. What that means for each person is going to look a little bit differently. But first, we're going to start with a patron. For each patron that subscribes at our $5 tier or higher, you can suggest a card for us to shout out. We gave you guys a special prompt for this episode to shout out a card that signifies your association with the Pitch It To Me podcast, your journey with us. A lot of you have been with us since the very beginning, and a lot of you have been with us very shortly. But we want to hear your perspective on the podcast and all that good jazz. So without further ado, we're going to shout out the next Patreon, which is... Drum roll, please. Fopdoodle!
I live with that guy.
Me too.
And funnily enough, the card that Fopdoodle has selected is Blood Rush Bellow. Quote, primarily because the two hosts I live with are brute enjoyers.
And Blood Rush Bellow is a yellow majestic brute action that blocks 3, costs 1, and says, as an additional cost to play Blood Rush Bellow, discard a random card. Your brute attacks gain +2 power this turn. And if the discarded card has 6 or more power, draw 2 cards, and Blood Rush Bellow gains Go Again, because it is just an action without Go Again. Yeah, not a very long description from Josh, but I think this card is very emblematic of our podcast. Each of us has talked about it in some way or another, or adjacent cards. It's just...
We are a brute podcast. The moment that Fuzzy played Reinar for like those 2 months, it was like, okay, we can't be a balanced podcast anymore.
Yeah.
We're the brute podcast.
Absolutely.
And I really did go through the journey that I've watched you guys go on multiple times where I'm picking it up. It's so fun. And then after a few armories where I'm just losing a shit ton of games, part of it due to variance, I'm like, what am I fucking doing here? KO's pretty good though.
KO's amazing, right?
I got to play Clerk's KO deck at an armory and it was really fun. I would build my own KO deck if I had time.
And money.
I have that.
Okay.
Hey, yo. There's some money bags over here.
Blood Rush Bellow, also notably one of the survivors of the Great Book Burning.
Yeah.
That's
of
true.
2025.
I mean, there's a
Or
lot of...
2024? 2024.
2024. There is a lot of hoops to jump through for this card in particular. Very powerful card, but you need to be able to sequence your attacks correctly.
Yeah.
Whoa. You guys fell for the bait. You are talking a lot about Blood Rush Bellow.
Yeah, what is this Blood Rush
I think
Bellow
we may
TV
need to move
podcast?
on to the next card because we could sit here for a long time talking about Blood Rush Bellow.
True.
You got my ass for sure. All right.
Especially because all Fopdoodle said was like, yeah, these two motherfuckers I live with. they play Blood Rush Bellow.
Yeah.
Stop talking about Blood Rush Bellow.
I fully accept that stereotype. let's move on to the next.
Very emblematic of the podcast.
Yeah, let's keep it moving, guys.
All right.
Good job, Fopdoodle.
Yeah, you got my ass. Okay, so we also decided to do an extra patron because obviously we went on a hiatus. This is a special episode, so we selected a second patron for this podcast or for this Arsenal Zone.
And this patron is Norah, someone who's a little bit newer to the scene.
Thank you, Norah.
Norah shouted out Knick-Knack Bric-a-Brac.
Ooh.
So Norah says, I remember listening to the Equipment Value and Fab episode in Kansas City twice over. The first time falling asleep before day one of the calling, and the second one on the drive home that Monday. It was a great way to have even more company on the trip, in addition to the friends I went with. Not only a card that made me pop off, but also a card that inspired discussion in the car.
Ooh, nice.
Joel, would you like to read the card?
Yeah, Knick-Knack Bric-a-Brac is a terrible card from Everfest. It's a red pitch, 3 cost, generic action that blocks 2.
It costs 3?
It costs 3.
Jesus.
That's probably what they were talking about in the car. Like, why the fuck does this card cost 3? And as an additional cost to play Knick-Knack Bric-a-Brac, you may destroy any number of copper, silver, and or gold you control. Search your deck for a card with amulet, potion, or talisman in its name. Put it into the arena, then shuffle. For each 4 copper, 2 silver, and or 1 gold destroyed this way, repeat this process.
Yeah.
When is this ever getting played? First and foremost.
Well, it was played to be able to hyper accelerate out Verdant's combo.
Yes, I do remember that.
That was how it was played. But honestly, this message from Norah is just so incredibly sweet. Not only that they listened to the episode twice over a weekend, but also the fact that that it was a great way to have even more company. Like to think that we are creating those sorts of parasocial relationships. I know how poorly it is seen by a lot of content creators, but it really does feel special at this level, at least at our side.
Yes, yes.
Of we got to be a friend for someone in a moment. Sometimes maybe when they don't have that friend, maybe when they don't have that scene. I know we've had a patron say it's very nice to listen to us because they have a very small scene. They don't have a lot of people to discuss the game with. And so we sort of give them that ability to have that discussion. But this was just, it warmed my heart so genuinely. Thank you, Norah.
I love that they're talking about the inspiring discussions for their card.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, that's fun.
And if anybody wants to see my Riptide, No Arrow, Knick-Knack Bric-a-Brac list, just ping me in the Discord.
Anyone who pings them is getting banned. Just kidding.
Well, thank you, Norah.
Yeah. And I think now it's time to go on to the host's cards.
Yes.
Clark, would you like to start us off?
You want to start us off?
Yeah, what card would you say signifies your PITM journey?
My card is Techlocore. When we first started recording the podcast, I fucking hated Techlocore. And I lost a very egregious game to Hans Blitz -IE deck because he played 2 Techlocores and he didn't have to pitch and played 2 5-card hands. And I was so ready to rage at this game. I was so ready to go off on this card, but literally, I put it into the notes expecting to go on my angry rant. I'm like, I have a podcast. That's what the why have a podcast if I can't complain about the things that I want to complain about? But literally, as I'm recording the episode, I'm feeling what the point of having the podcast actually is for me. And it's not to complain about the things I want to complain about. It's to inspire deeper discussions and remove myself from my own opinions. To be a voice more for not the people or for a specific opinion or stance, but for people engaging with the game away from their emotions, away from that guy at locals who beats you. And so literally, as we go to talk about Techlocore, Fuzzy and Joel are like, all right, Clark, go off. And I go, but it's okay because here's why the design actually works. And here's why it's okay to have powerful cards. And I literally shift what I'm going to talk about in the exact moment I go to talk about it. And I think that's such a special moment that solidified for me why I do the podcast.
So for my card, I've decided to choose Centauri Saber for a few reasons. Now, the Centauri Saber is a magnificent weapon. It is a 2-power warrior weapon sword that's one-handed. And as once per turn action, you can pay 1 resource to attack. And when this is defended by 1 or more attack action cards, this gets +1 power until end of turn. Not once per turn. Centauri Saber has been with me pretty much since the start of my Fab career. I started with Kasai Centauri Sellsword because she's the Sellsword, she uses the Centauri Saber. And so it's a card that I used in Blitz when I was first starting and fell in love with the game on Warrior. And it's something that Bolton used because that was like the only content that existed around him was the combo Centauri Saber deck with Courage of Bladehood and all that stuff. And eventually, as I've moved past playing in Blitz because Kasai Centauri Sellsword LL'd and Bolton was moving towards Raiden, I eventually picked up Centauri Saber again when Kasai was first released in CC form. Yeah. It was the first time where they broke away from the sort of like inadvertent rule that any Blitz hero that had a title would not get an adult version. And Kasai blew everybody's socks off. Her art was incredible. Her effect was like unbelievably cool because you got to create gold tokens, and then Raisin Armor was spoiled. It was like this completely new way to play Warrior in a way that like really entrenched them in the storage mechanic side of things versus the attack reaction side of things. And in that heavy hitters meta, I got my very first RTN win with the Centauri Sabers because, well, I think it was technically with Hot Streak too, but I piloted that deck for my very first win, and it was sort of what catapulted me into like, this is the game I want to invest time in, this is what I want to be competitive with. And for a long time, I've still been a little stubborn in like, I want to keep playing Warrior during these seasons. But yeah, if I had to pick a card that showcases the class that I fell in love with the most, have struggled with the most, and like sort of reevaluated through the development of the game. I just really like Centauri Saber, the design of Warrior, and through this podcast, I've been able to appreciate the design direction of it more than I had when I first started.
Sweet. Nice. Awesome shout. I think for my card, I want to talk about how my personality has solidified into an online persona. And really that means that you guys will make jokes about me and my habits as the game goes on. I think the biggest one is that I love draft, and I'll especially draft the blue block 3s.
Oh, yeah.
And really like the big time where this moment came around was I won an RTN in the heavy hitters meta. I was forcing KO at the time. That's how I won the RTN, really, is I forced KO in all 3 of the drafts. And the main thing I was prioritizing is those blue block 3s that also count as 6s for KO. And having that as the foundation for my deck, I think was one of the reasons why I was able to do so well in the event. And so for the card I'm shouting out today, that's going to be Blue Assault and Battery. It pitches for 3, it blocks for 3, it costs 3, it has a 5 power, which is really 6 in KO math. It has beat chest, and when it attacks, if you've beaten chest this turn, create an agility token. So for a blue, well, with those all the fact that it blocks 3 and all that, getting an agility token and the utility out of that means that you feel comfortable playing at turn 0. If you get an all blue hand, this is something that you can set up for a future turn. So it's one of the better blue block 3s in the set. And being able to be the draft guy, Clark also loves draft. Joel's the anti-draft guy. So Joel and I kind of like push back against each other a lot of the time on the podcast.
And I moderate with heavier quotes. Because I'm really on fuzzy side. Like.
I get bullied.
But focusing on blue block 3s, I think, has become like an in-joke that I live when I go to draft events. And I'm really hoping we get to see more draft in the future. And I've also been very proud of these things that I've learned along the way, the lessons I've learned from having to talk about design on the podcast so often. And it's also symbolizes the biggest event win that I've had during my time on the pod. So that's why I've chosen it.
Fantastic.
I'll piggyback off that a little bit, which is that my biggest tournament win was an AGE limited. And I won that by forcing new in Mistvale and prioritizing blue block 3s because Fuzzy on the drive there was like, here's my strategy for Mistveil. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to do that. And it worked out really well for me. I remember like even at the top table, like Chris Ioli, all those people also on new, but they were just prioritizing the generic blue stuff, the Mystic blue stuff. And I was getting those blue block 3s and it worked out. It's a good strat. Fuzzy's the draft king.
Well, Talon, you are here with us as a guest, so you also get a space here in the Arsenal Zone. Do you have a card that represents your PITM journey? I
do. And this card represents a little bit more of one part of kind of like how I've developed as a player. And then second part, more importantly, the community side of Flesh and Blood and of Pitch It to Me. And that card is Driftwood Quiver.
Jesus Christ.
Whoa. Wow. A Riptide card?
Yeah.
No.
Driftwood Quiver is a quiver that says instant speed, destroy this. Put a card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck. That's the card effect. That's what it does.
Fantastic.
It lets you clear out your arsenal.
-3.
Yeah.
And I have never played with this card until just the last couple months because normally we have Trench, right? Like I love Trench. Trench was my first card that I ever did in Arsenal Zone, and I love that card. But in recent lists, I'm on Tunic now. Ugh. So I'm on a more aggressive thing. So now I need the Driftwood Quiver just to get me out of tight spots, right? So one, that's some disciplined choices I'm making as a player, growing there. But that Driftwood Quiver that I run was given to me by Clark at the first ever Battle Hardened I attended. This is Battle Hardened Pasadena. I had only been to a handful of armories. I did not have a complete list. I think up until that point, I was still borrowing people's decks. Mm-hmm. And I remember borrowing a bunch of cards for this tournament, so much so that I was still sleeving up at the start of round 1. And the judge had to like sit over me and be like, okay, like get your list together and stuff. So really scrapped together really early in my Flesh and Blood experience. But later at that event, there was a super armory and they had the promos out. And, I think Clark had placed well and he grabbed the Driftwood Quiver knowing that I was playing Riptide. And instead of holding on to that, he gave that card to me. And it's a trash card that is just for limited, that has sat in my binder ever since then, until a few months ago where I got so excited where I'm like, oh, if I'm on Tunic, yeah, I'm giving up Trench, but I get to grab this cool card that my friend gave to me. Same thing happened with you, Joel. I almost went with Memorial Ground because that's another card we're playing. And I'm actually on blue Memorial Grounds, but I could only find one. So I ran a yellow Memorial Ground. And if you remember, you gave me one of your stamped yellow Memorial Grounds from Dusk to Dawn Nationals.
Yep.
So it's just been fun, like this last couple months as I try this new Sandscour build of like going through my deck and realizing like I have a lot of cool, weirdly blinged out cards just because these are like garbage cards that my friends were like, here's a garbage card that I think you'll like or you'll use someday. And I have been, and that's been fun. So that's my card, Driftwood Quiver.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
So I think this episode is a little longer than a normal episode, but
Yeah.
I think it's a lot longer than a normal episode.
but hey, if we had to pick one to be extra long, episode 100, our special reflection episode, like
In our first episode since the hiatus.
yeah.
Mhm.
So extra juicy one for you guys. Even though we only shouted out 2 patrons, we still want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments, what is a card that you think about when you think about Pitch It To Me podcast? What is emblematic of your journey with the podcast and what you like most about the show?
Yeah, or just share a fun memory you've had. Maybe like what was the first episode that you listened to that you remember, or
That's a good one.
And don't forget to give us a prediction for Pitch and Predictions.
yeah.
That's coming up very, very soon. So get your predictions in. If you don't want to do it in the comments here, you can go ahead and join our Discord. Link in the doobly-doo.
And the Discord is also the only place where you can get Flesh and Blood spoilers, so you don't want to miss out on that when pen spoilers eventually start dropping.
With all that being said, thank you for being with us for 100 episodes.
Damn.
Here's to 100 more.
Here's to 100 more.
100 more.
Bye.
Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Fuzzy Delp, Clark Moore, and Joel Recinos. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Logistics coordinator, John Farkas. Music by Dillon Hulse. Logo by Han V. And sound mixing by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, we'd like to thank you, the listener. Thank you for tuning in. please give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
Well, this is Long Beach Airport.
Oh, yeah. What the fuck? We have to fly in from San Francisco. Drive.
I can't believe you're trashing on the Long Beach Airport.
actually.
Welcome to Pitch It To Me Podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be your three hosts doing an ego trip about their time as micro-celebrities in the world of flesh and blood podcasting. You can find us across all socials, such as Blue Sky and Instagram, at Pitch It To Me Podcast. That's awful.
I mean, that went better than I expected.
We were like pretty in sync there. I couldn't even tell it was 4 people.
It's just like, if we were trying to torture somebody, we could play it nonstop on a loop.
Should we do the whole podcast like that?
The worst,
I think
the worst part was when we'd all go together.
My favorite part is whenever I started laughing at one point, and I'm like, that's very noticeable.